The New York Times filed a motion on Friday to dismiss a federal defamation lawsuit filed by actor Justin Baldoni in response.
Could the judge be prejudiced because of his brother's affiliation?
Filed Friday night, which is always how you file things when you don't want the media to report on them.
It Ends With Us may have left theaters, but the drama surrounding it is far from over. From the heated exchanges between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni to a multi-million-dollar lawsuit, the PR battle rages on. Now, the New York Times has entered the fray, caught in the crossfire of this ongoing controversy.
He's alleging that the newspaper defamed him and engaged in other shady behavior.
Lively isn't backing down from her accusations against Baldoni, and now, the Times is officially pushing back against his $250 million lawsuit.
New York Times asks court to dismiss Justin Baldoni's defamation lawsuit.
The publication has filed a motion to dismiss, arguing that it had no involvement in Lively's agenda and was simply fulfilling its journalistic duties. To back up their stance, they've even cited key statutory laws.
In the new filing, attorneys for the Times claim that the paper is protected by fair report privilege. Now, that's something that safeguards outlets from libel when reporting on official documents like legal filing.
But here's where things take a turn. Baldoni's team claims to have receipts showing that the Times had access to Lively's civil complaint days before publishing their article. In fact, they allegedly knew about it long before Baldoni himself did. So the big question remains, was the Times just reporting the news, or were they actively collaborating with Lively to take Baldoni down?
The article from the Times included all of these text messages and communications, which his team claims were heavily edited. And they were.
This isn't just about one article. The New York Times didn't merely report on the lawsuit, it turned it into a full-blown media spectacle. Baldoni claims the paper deliberately pushed a one-sided hit piece, painting him as guilty before he even had a chance to respond. So, what's really going on here? Was Baldoni set up by a powerful Hollywood PR machine backing Lively? Or is he overreaching with his $250 million lawsuit against the media giant? That depends on which side you're on in this saga. But let's break it all down.
That New York Times sent to Justin back in December, days before Christmas, with a short one-day window for him to respond.
It's official. The New York Times wants out. Desperately. Weeks after Baldoni hit them with a costly defamation lawsuit, the publication finally made its way to court to seek dismissal. Their argument? They were just doing their job, reporting on Blake Lively's civil rights complaint. Nothing more, nothing less. According to them, this isn't part of an elaborate smear campaign. They're just journalists fulfilling their duty to inform the public.
This case should never have been brought against the New York Times. Blake Lively raised serious concerns about the way she was treated on the set and after the movie's release. We did exactly what news organizations should do. We informed the public of the complaint she filed with the California Civil Rights Department.
But here's the question. How could a major media corporation approve an article capable of ruining careers based solely on the claims of the alleged victim? Is this what journalism has come to? No wonder people are losing faith in legacy media. In their motion to dismiss, a spokesperson for the Times called Baldoni's lawsuit a shameless PR document, accusing him of launching a misguided campaign to discredit their work. In other words, they claim Baldoni is the one with an agenda, using this lawsuit to silence the press and flip the narrative in his favor.
Mr. Baldoni's misbegotten campaign against the Times, questioning our ethics, attempting to discredit our reporting, filing a baseless lawsuit will not silence us. Now look.
That means the Times is framing itself as the innocent party, just reporters caught in the middle of Baldoni's battle with Lively. Convenient, right? Integrity is supposed to be the cornerstone of journalism, but if you've read the article they published before Lively even filed her lawsuit, you might wonder, how does the journalist behind it sleep at night, knowing they may have just destroyed someone's career?
Answers that Justin has to the questions by Blake Lively. Answers that were not included in this initial article. And of course,
let's be real. Baldoni didn't just wake up one morning and decide to amend his lawsuit. Every move he's made so far has been calculated, and this suit against the Times is no different. According to court documents, Baldoni doesn't just claim the article was bad press. He believes it was a setup. To him, the article was part of a bigger plan, orchestrated by Lively and her team, to take him down in one swift move.
Right, because Blake Lively's dominated the media. What they did was they worked with the New York Times, or publicists worked directly with the New York Times. They shared illegally obtained text messages.
And honestly, it would have been an easy win for Lively. She could have walked away victorious. But Baldoni knew early on that in a battle like this, receipts are everything. He wasn't about to accuse the New York Times without proof. Thanks to investigative journalists like Candace Owens, hidden details surfaced. Turns out, the Times had access to Lively's civil complaint a full 11 days before publishing their so-called unbiased article.
They concocted a complaint that they filed with the Civil Rights Division. They omitted texts that would have provided context, texts that were in the exact same string that would have provided context of what was really going on.
Let that sink in. 11 days. That's more than enough time for behind-the-scenes strategy, phone calls, and narrative fine-tuning before anything ever reached the public. But here's the kicker. It wasn't just text messages that were allegedly taken out of context. The Times reportedly even scrubbed emojis from the receipts they included in their article. Yes, emojis.
And in fact, they actually removed emojis from texts that show that there was satire and there was joking around by the PR crisis agents. I mean,
think about how calculated that is. Removing emojis just to alter the tone of a conversation. That's next-level manipulation. Yet, in a statement, a New York Times spokesperson repeatedly insisted that they did everything by the book. According to them, the journalist assigned to the Baldoni piece conducted proper investigations and verified the legitimacy of Lively's claims.
Initial lawsuit, it included the full communications, most glaringly between his publicist and his crisis PR expert, where they were joking about some of the bad press that Delulu Lively was getting, but they also said, well, I didn't plant that. I can't take credit for that. That wasn't me.
But let's be honest. This whole situation raises serious questions about legacy media. For years, people have accused mainstream outlets of controlling narratives and only telling the public what they want them to hear. If the Times was truly practicing fair journalism, why didn't they reach out to Baldoni before running the story? Why was he framed as guilty from the start instead of being given an equal platform to present his side?
PR crisis agent was brought in because actually Blake Lively's publicist, Leslie Sloan, was planting stories negative to Justin.
Well, technically, they did reach out to Baldoni, but they did it in a way that made it nearly impossible for him to respond in time. And that's where things get shady. The article was published during the holiday season, and they conveniently sent Baldoni's notice at a time when they knew he'd be unable to act quickly, because he'd need to consult with his legal team first. Dave Neal, a key voice dissecting this drama, broke down the timing of the email perfectly.
Mr. Baldoni, we are reporting about a crisis communication operation conducted on behalf of you, Jamie Heath and Wayfarer Studios, to protect your reputations and harm Blake Lively's, as described in a legal complaint filed today.
The email was sent to Baldoni on December 20th at 9 p.m., just 5 days before Christmas, right before the weekend. Coincidence? Unlikely. But it wasn't just the timing that was off. If you analyze the email, you'll notice something strange. They carefully avoided revealing that they already knew about Lively's civil complaint long before Baldoni did. Almost as if they were trying to make it look like they were just reporting the news as it broke.
Like they're trying to make this look like they didn't have the information ahead of time, which we damn well know the metadata shows they were working on this, back in...
Just imagine, if Candace Owens hadn't exposed the metadata proving that the New York Times knew about Blake's plans to file her complaint in advance, we might never have known the full picture. At this point, it's not a stretch to believe they were also aware she planned to file a lawsuit right after the article had served its purpose.
The effort was undertaken last summer out of concern that complaints Miss Lively had made during the filming of It Ends With Us would become public during the movie's rollout.
And like Dave Neal explained, why would Baldoni sabotage a movie he spent 5 years working on just to counter Lively's accusations? Let's not forget, he wasn't just emotionally invested, he had millions of dollars tied into this film. While Sony handled marketing, Baldoni and his company, Wayfarer Studios, shouldered a significant portion of the financing. His entire career was riding on this.
That is not an opinion. That was stated as fact that he orchestrated a smear campaign.
For him, it was a lose-lose situation. If he had spoken out too soon, he risked getting completely crushed by Lively's narrative. But despite the immense pressure, he didn't panic, which raises an interesting question. What was the Times really trying to imply in that email? Baldoni had zero incentive to leak Lively's harassment claims. Sure, he could have tried to fight back to protect his reputation, but from a business standpoint, it wouldn't have made sense. There was too much at stake.
Can't disagree with that. The Times continues saying, despite the Wayfarer Party's hundreds of pages of screen grabs, outrage, and rhetoric, this is a very simple case. The article is absolutely privileged as a fair report, and the Wayfarer Party's defamation claim.
So, who actually benefited from these harassment claims going public? Blake Lively. If the scandal led to the movie flopping, it wouldn't have affected her in the slightest. In fact, it was a win-win for her either way.
We informed the public of the complaint she filed with the California Civil Rights Department, Mr. Baldoni's misbegotten campaign against the Times, questioning our ethics, attempting to discredit our reporting, filing a baseless lawsuit will not silence us.
The real million-dollar question is, how did Lively obtain the alleged subpoena that allowed her to access these text messages? Who, exactly, did she subpoena? While we wait for those answers, there's another critical question for the New York Times. If they truly reviewed these text messages, why do they only publish selective parts? Why not release the full conversation? Because if they had, they wouldn't have had a sensationalized, career-destroying article to publish. Would they?
Oh, they reviewed them. Did you review the missing emoji?
Baldoni's legal team isn't backing down. They've made their position crystal clear. This wasn't journalism. It was coordination. They believe the Times and Lively's camp weren't just on the same page. They were actively working together to shape the story before it ever hit the public. And honestly, it's getting harder and harder to dismiss the possibility that this was a deliberate hit piece.
Well, what you don't know is a lot, right? Because Blake Lively's dominated the media.
If you don't already know, Hollywood's PR machines are no joke. A-list celebrities like Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds have access to some of the most powerful media strategists in the industry. That's probably why they felt confident that this story wouldn't spiral into a full-blown scandal. But unfortunately for them, it did.